So when we talk about this idea of potential, you think about nature, what has potential? A seed has potential. Seed, that little tiny seed, has the power to grow into this magnificent tree that bears fruit, that can exist for hundreds, some even thousands and thousands of years. So the human being is no different than the seed. We're all born with this kind of potential. But the whole notion is how do we tap into that potential? How do we awaken and ignite that potential? And for me, it's through the practice and through the science of yoga. Yoga addresses every dimension and every layer of who we are as a human being. So many modalities out there are missing the whole complete package. You could say that it's not a comprehensive system. But when we look at who we are, we know that we're this physical body, this physical dimension that we have to take care of through physical exercise, through the foods that we eat, through the beverages that we drink. That's how we take care of that physical layer of who we are. And then we go underneath that, and then we have that energetic dimension of who we are. In science, we may call that the electromagnetic energy. We all are made of electricity and magnetic energy, and that's influenced by a lot of things. It's influenced even by our thoughts. And this is how the mind and our thoughts influence our energy and also our physical state, or what we call psychoneuroimmunology, that mind-body connection. And that dimension of the mind, that dimension of thoughts, and how our brain was created to think thoughts, to be able to organize information, to be able to plan things, to be able to imagine and visualize things that haven't even been created yet, and to bring that into reality. And then we have that level of the emotions. In some wisdom traditions, they call it the unfinished business of the heart, the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows, that we all carry this. We carry happiness, but we also carry sadness. We carry compassion, but we also carry anger. This is woven into the fabric of who we are. And then we move beyond that. We come into that awareness dimension, the ability to zoom out, to get that 10,000 foot perspective as to what's happening within physical sensation, what's happening within our energy, our breath, what's happening within our mind, our thoughts, what's happening within our emotions and our feelings. Because if we don't have that awareness, we get entangled within it. It's like being caught up in a river that we can't get out of. But when you have that awareness dimension, you're stepping onto the banks and you're able to see things as they are. So now you have perspective. Now you have freedom. And then that last dimension, the dimension of source, the dimension of soul, the dimension of spirit. So if we want to tap into our potential, it seems to me like we would have to address all those different dimensions of who we are, and that's how you ignite the seed. You know, I think another way that we tap into our potential is really through discipline. Whether it's a professional athlete that's the first one there and the last one to leave, like the legendary stories of Kobe Bryant, or Missy Copeland, the great ballerina, same thing. You know, even despite growing up in an abusive, alcoholic family, she had the discipline. She was the first one to practice, the last one to leave. So if you want to tap into your potential, you too have to have discipline. But you think about, what is it that stops us from that high level of discipline? For a lot of us, it's the expectation of perfection. They actually did this study, this pottery study. So at the beginning of the semester, the teacher came out and said to the class, I'm going to break you down into 2 groups. The first group is going to focus on creating as much pottery as possible. And if you do 50 pounds of pottery, I'm going to give you an A. If you get 40 pounds, I'll give you a B. If you do 30 pounds of pottery, I'll give you a C, and so forth. The other half of the group, he said, I want you to focus on the quality. All you have to do is create that one perfect piece of pottery and I will give you an A. So the semester went along and he was stunned to find out that at the end of the semester, the group that produced the best pottery was not the one that focused on quality, but it was actually the group that focused on quantity. Because when you focus on perfection, it stunts your ability to make mistakes. Whereas the group that did the pottery over and over and over again, over and over and over time, they learned from those mistakes and they got better and better and better. They ended up producing the superior pottery in the end. So whatever it is that you want to do in your life, whether you're an athlete, whether you are studying a certain subject, you want to grant yourself permission to have imperfection, to make mistakes. We call that the growth mindset as opposed to the fixed mindset. There was a monk every day who used to walk from the temple down this path all the way to fill up a jug of water. And in the jug of water was a hole, and so the water, as he filled it up and he walked back up the path to the temple, that water would leak out. And one day another monk came up to him and he said, why don't you fix your jug? You're just letting that water pour out. And he stopped the monk and he instructed him to look down on the side of the path where the water spilled out. And he said, do you notice anything there? And the other monk noticed for the first time that all along that path were beautiful wild flowers that had grown because that water had been spilling and leaking out through the hole. So the wisdom traditions, they teach us to embrace our imperfections, that very often within our vulnerabilities is where our greatest strength exists. Another way that we access our potential really is by understanding that the challenge or the obstacles that we face as we seek to achieve our goals, that obstacle is the path. That obstacle is the way. So when you encounter the obstacle, you don't want to turn around and give up, but you want to use that as momentum or ammunition to help you achieve the goal. So the resistance is what makes you stronger. In mythology, it's called the dark night of the soul. When the hero moves through the dark night of the soul, this is how they become the hero. So in Tibet, they actually have a prayer where they pray for challenges. Not only are they okay and at peace with challenges, but they pray for it. They ask the universe to grant them those challenges because they know that's how they're going to grow. In the Shaolin tradition, they call it eating bitter. You know, you want to get really, really good at eating bitter. And what that means is that you can't just give yourself all sweet things, all easy things, all things that are in your comfort zone, because you're not going to grow. In fact, you're going to wither away. But when you're embracing the challenge, when you're eating bitter, and Navy SEALs, they call it embrace the suck. And in yoga, they call it tapasya. It's like this purification that comes through moving through the challenge. And ultimately what that does is it moves us from the small self of being trapped in this small self, this small cage of ego, into that big self. And from that big self, then we start to act and we start to find ways of being of service to others, of being of service to humanity. We start living with purpose. We start living with meaning. And this is what it means to tap into your potential. I want to finish just by sharing a last little quote from Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutras, who writes, "You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly."